occupies the land of the Ho-Chunk people. Please take a moment and celebrate and honor this ancestral Ho-Chunk land and the sacred lands of all Indigenous peoples. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Alberts?
Here.
Mr. Bigneski?
Here.
Ms. Fuchs?
Here.
Dr. Garcia?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Manka?
Here.
Mr. Neumeister?
Here.
Dr. Sprague?
Here.
Ms. Sukla?
Here. A quorum of the Board of Education is present, so the regularly scheduled meeting of August 4th, 2025 is called to order. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's agenda has previously been distributed to the board. I would entertain at this time a motion with a second to approve the agenda as submitted, unless there is a motion to amend.
I move to accept the agenda as submitted.
Seconded.
We have a motion second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Bigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Neumeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye. Okay, we will then move on to the public speaker section of the agenda. It is the policy of the board to provide at its public meetings an opportunity for individuals to address the board. Comments about individual staff or personnel will not be allowed. Open meeting law prohibits the board from engaging in discussion or responding to matters not included on the agenda. All speakers are reminded that the same policy limits your time to speak to 5 minutes. This limit will be strictly enforced. May I ask the superintendent to keep track of the time and to notify the speaker when the time is running out?
I will do so.
Thank you. You're also asked to give your name and the school district where you reside at the beginning of your time for the public record. And our first speaker is Courtney High.
My name is Courtney High. I reside in the school district of And honestly, after the experience I've had working with Hogan staff, I didn't feel all that compelled to try. As I moved on to search for jobs in Wisconsin, I found myself applying for a coaching role at an elementary school in Madison. They were eager to interview me. At the end of the interview, as I assured them that I would take whatever steps needed to obtain the necessary license for the role, I received a rather confused look from the principal at the school. She explained that Madison regularly hired middle and high school level staff as coaches at the elementary level, without additional licensing, as these are the staff with the content expertise that they needed. And a quick search of the laws for licensing revealed that they are written for teachers and administrators, not roles like coaching. It appears that I may have been able to stay in lacrosse in that elementary coaching role after all. I was offered that position in Madison, but for personal reasons, I turned it down and chose to apply to work in New York City instead. I knew my talent was larger than what I was being offered here in the state of Wisconsin. When my resume was posted on the job board for the city, these are the number of emails I received in a week alone from schools looking to interview me to teach. Schools like Truman High School, the Business School of Sports, East New York Civics High School, Ebbets Field Middle School, Meyer Levin School for Performing Arts, it goes on. And I got more in the time I took to print these to come over here today. And to be clear, these are not schools I applied for. These are schools that sought out me, talent that the La Crosse School District supposedly could not keep. In the end, the oldest private school in the entire country, one that has over 200 years of history and serves some of the most prestigious families in New York, offered to create an instructional coaching role and program from scratch for me. This morning, I met with their head of schools to go over the job description that was written for me specifically and agree to take the position. They were so moved by my expertise and talent that they created a role from nothing to employ me. Again, this is talent that the La Crosse School District supposedly could not find a way to keep. When I finally came to share the news of this with some of my friends from the Longfellow family, I was told some sad news. The person who was set to take my position at Longfellow had left, moved for another position. This is the weekend post for my position, the one I was laid off from. It is now unfilled. Had the district fought to keep me, even in a different role, I would have likely never sought a comparable job in another district or state. I would have likely applied internally to return to Longfellow, given the opening, and continue the work I had been doing with all the institutional knowledge and expertise intact. Now, Longfellow will have to hire their third coach in 5 years. It took me 2 years to build the institutional knowledge and staff relationships I needed to start to see measurable results at Longfellow. It will likely take even more for the next person, as the experts who mentored me have now also moved on. Although this story has an incredible ending for me, it does not have an incredible ending for the La Crosse community or Longfellow. Just as I spoke to a few months ago, personnel practices in the district are misaligned and leave the schools here losing institutional knowledge, relationships with adults, students, and family, and expertise that are much needed for improvement. I know there's a lot on your all plates right now as you approach the upcoming school year, with the consolidation, the massive political changes, and tight budgets we are continuing to see. But when you do find the time to step back and look at where to improve, I urge you to ask some questions about the practices of our upper level administration and HR teams. Until then, I fear that La Crosse will continue to lose incredible talent and institutional knowledge. Thank you for your time. I wish everyone the best for the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on, then we will move to the school showcase. And we have an agri-science presentation.
Yes, very thankful. It looks like Dr. Rodering's going to introduce our team.
Hi, good evening. I'm Greta Rotary Supervisor of Career and Technical Education, and tonight we would like to highlight our agri-science program, which is now middle school and high school, and our Career and Technical Student Organization, FFA, our program growth and opportunities over the last 2 years. So Brooks, would you like to?
And I'll encourage folks to speak into the microphone because we have somebody online.
I'm Brooks Luke. I, last year and the past 2 years, have taught at Logan and Central High School, and will be moving to Central and Logan Middle School this next year with my 3rd year in the district.
Hi all, my name is Jared Mickelson. This will be my 2nd year in La Crosse. Last year I was at Longfellow Middle School and Logan Middle School, and next year I will be at Longfellow Middle School and Logan High School.
So we just have some handouts going around. They're our newsletter from fall, winter, and spring. Our students create this newsletter highlighting kind of what's happening in the classroom and then what's happening with our FFA chapter. And then the last one is a handout that we handed out to our state senators and representatives when we went and did FFA Day on the Hill, kind of highlighting overall what's happening in the program, FFA and ag-wise. What we're going to go over today is just some of the classes that we offer and kind of the topics that we hit on for our students. The first one is Introduction to Agriculture. This one had 21 students in total between Logan and Central. We cover topics of just kind of what is agriculture and how does it impact us, animal science, plant science, natural resources and environmental systems, power structural and mechanical, agribusiness, food science, and then supervised agricultural experiences, or SAE, and then FFA. This class really covers all of the different standard areas that we teach in, so it kind of hits on every core area that we could pull standards from and align our curriculum to. Some highlights from this: La Crosse was selected for the Farm Beats for Schools program. It's a computer program that runs with like little mechanics, and kids learn how to code using basically pre-written coded blocks, and then they can make the system, say, light up and do a heart, make sounds, play music, all sorts of things. And it's really a push for agriculture and where we're headed into the future. So our students got to work with that this year. That was provided by a grant with Microsoft in partnership with National FFA. There were only about 10 schools in the state of Wisconsin that were selected. And then we also did some ice cream making at the end of the semester to kind of celebrate getting through the semester. And we used our ice cream makers and made some fresh vanilla ice cream. Then we have animal care. This is probably one of our most popular classes in the school district. This year we had 40 students first semester and 37 students second semester. We've seen incredible growth in this program. It is transcripted through Western Tech. By receiving a C or better in this class, students get 3 credits of animal science that they can then transfer to any college. A lot of students that are transferring this might be transferring for a veterinary program at either Platteville or River Falls. And we've definitely seen some uptick in students going there for those programs. 57 students earned dual credit for the 24-25 school year, which is really awesome. Our goal is about 75% or more students earning dual credit, which we are right at that goal. Topics that we cover history and use, so kind of domestication, and then what do we use animals for. So we go over products and different companion uses and things like that. As well as nutrition, we cover livestock and companion nutrition. Being La Crosse is a more urban district, I do feel it is important to expand those things for students to experience livestock, which they might not deal with every day. We cover reproduction genetics, as well as veterinary science, anatomy and physiology, welfare and housing, and as again, in every course we cover supervised agricultural experiences and FFA. Some highlights from this class this year: we adopted 5 guinea pigs from the Humane Society. There were 3 at Central and 2 at Logan. Their names are up on the board there. We also hatched out pheasants this year, and then Mr. Ferget, Todd Ferget at Central, he took them, he had a run that he releases them onto some land, so that was really awesome. And then we also have been partnering with the special education department to really push students into classes, and so animal care is one of the big pushes in their department for this. Then we have greenhouse management. This class was called plant science / greenhouse management, but we changed the name to make it more appealing to more students. We had 9 students at Logan High School first semester and 37 students at Central High School second semester. This is also transcripted with Western Tech for 3 credits of plant science. We had 38 students receive dual credit this school year, and that does meet our goal of about 75% students receiving dual credit. Topics include intro to plant science, plant anatomy, environmental factors, plant growth and hormones, floriculture. Some of the pictures are of our candy bouquets and fake floral arrangements that we had the students do, as well as home gardening and landscaping, and then SAE and FFA. Some highlights: this was a new course for the 24-25 school year. We gained 6 hydroponic grow towers, 4 at the high school and 2 at the middle school, through an LPEF grant and through a Compeer financial grant. And then for the upcoming school year, we're excited. The greenhouse building permits have been secured, so Central will be gaining a state-of-the-art greenhouse, and then we're going to be working with Grow La Crosse for some field experiences and getting out there, as well as with the Renew the Block program happening at Logan Middle. And then the last course that we had this year was wildlife management. This had 28 students first semester and 42 students second semester. A very large area of interest in the La Crosse community is that of natural resources. And so topics we covered were intro to wildlife and natural resources, mammals, birds, and fish, as well as some forestry, and then SAE and FFA. Some highlights were we did Boone and Crockett scoring of deer antler mounts. So the kids had to measure them and use some math skills and some math knowledge to figure out the calculations and their scores. Painting waterfowl decoys, so we had some duck decoys and they painted them to match certain waterfowl breeds and then presented on them. And then also the hatching the pheasants was really nice. When we were covering birds, the kids got to experience some actual wildlife animals in class. The 25-26 school year, This is kind of our progression and growth over the last 2 years and going into year 3. Some additional classes we are adding a companion animals course. So this will talk about all the different companion animals, dogs, cats, guinea pigs, reptiles and amphibians, other small rodents. Could be included. Horses potentially fall under the companion animal pathway. And then each area will cover breeds, healthcare, training, and things like that. And then we have a large production animals class. This is kind of the opposite of our companion animals, so it covers sheep, dairy and beef cattle, swine or pigs, chickens, and then we can go into exotic and zoo animals as well, which is definitely an area that a lot of students have a high interest in. Topics will be on breeds and healthcare, training and handling, and then evaluation and how we actually judge those animals. And then the last one is an agri-science leadership independent study. This is for students to take a course if our schedule of sharing between 2 buildings doesn't align for them and they need to get a course in and want to be in the ag department. This allows them to have a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. And so topics include community service, supervised agricultural experiences, or better known as work-based learning and kind of other terms, and then career and leadership development events and FFA. So it kind of ropes in that leadership aspect that we see with our CTSOs as well.
All right, and last year, as we mentioned, the middle school program was added. So how that course works is that every 7th grader will have a quarter-long rotation through many of our CTE areas, art, health education. So we have a 9-week course with those same middle schoolers as well, specifically in 7th grade. So between both middle schools, we had the opportunity to teach over 300 students within the agri-science program last year, which was a really, really awesome opportunity. Some of the topics include, but are not limited to, since lots of storytelling leads to lots of other topics that get incorporated in as well. But those main topics are 4 units that we go over: our ag in our lives, where we look at everything from your food that's on the table in front of you. Where does it come from? The pencil you're writing with on the paper that's sitting on the table. How are all those things connected back to agriculture, food, and natural resources? At the same time, then we hop over to the unit about animals. So we talk about both companion animals and livestock animals as well, so that students can compare and contrast the domestication of those species, the history of use. You mentioned horses kind of fall into companion animals. That's kind of shifted from production to companion. We talk about topics like that. Plants, a lot of the stuff we go through is the science behind how plants function, and then ornamental plants. And then we wrap up with wildlife and natural resources. So you can see those 4 topics, those 4 units that we go through. They kind of provide a little taste of the different pathways that are offered in the high school classes, but they really also are a way for us to help our students become informed consumers. Knowing more of where the products that they use every day and the things that they interact with, how those are a huge part of their life and how they connect to agri-science. Some highlights then through those activities and units. Dairy Days, as I like to call it. I get on my cow Hawaiian shirt, and we make dairy products. So we make butter, we do cheese tasting, we make ice cream. That's probably one of their favorites that they ask for, especially if they have it 4th quarter. They've heard by that point of the year that that's one of those things that's coming up. We do radio ad projects, team activities, challenges. I brought in guest speakers from Quick Trip. The La Crosse Police Department brought in their service dogs as well, so that students could interact with those companion animals and learn about working dog breeds. And then we incorporated a lot of academic and career planning components as well through our careers activities, and kind of tied that into our SAE, our supervised agricultural experience as well, while those students investigated careers of any type that they were interested in.
So how students become FFA members? With FFA, there's kind of 2 ways to go about it these days. We have affiliation, and then we kind of have now the old school model, which is where you go talk to the teacher, you pay your dues, and you're a member. So affiliation is that every student in an agricultural education class is automatically enrolled in FFA. So they don't pay dues. It eliminates that financial barrier. It's actually written into our national charter that it is an intracurricular organization and that it works together. And so that's part of our three-circle model that we see. So we have our supervised agricultural experiences, FFA, and then classroom, and those three working together to create a really well-rounded experience for our members. So this past year, La Crosse FFA had 199 FFA members in total, so that really makes up a large percent of the students that we had in class. We do give students the opportunity to join if they aren't in an ag class, to keep it kind of with that club mentality. And so this chapter consists of both Logan and Central students. I have both our officer teams from last year and then our current officer team coming into this next school year. Some highlights: we had 11 students attend the National FFA Convention. This was La Crosse's first year down there in Indianapolis. We attended some sessions. They got to see Temple Grandin speak. They went to some workshops, so it was really awesome. The kids had a great time. This year we sold about $11,256 of fruit, meat, nuts, cheese, and strawberries through our fall fruit sale and then our spring strawberry sale. We hosted the leadership development events. This is a contest that rotates through the district. We are in District 8, and it rotates through about the 10 schools, and every so often you have to host. La Crosse was up in the rotation this year, and La Crosse Middle will be up in the rotation next year, so we'll be hosting again. We did have 2 students participate in 2 events each. We had 1 student participate in employment skills and extemporaneous, and then we had 1 student compete in employment skills and discussion meet. Sadly, they did not advance onto the sectional level, but they did score really well. And then we had 7 teams compete at the career development events down in UW-Platteville. These are events that focus on different career aspects. We had floriculture team, we had a milk quality products team, a wildlife team, vet science, and as well as a few others. We had 4 teams at state. We had an ag sales team, we had a nursery and landscape, our vet science team also advanced to state, and our horse team advanced to state this year. And then we had 9 students attend the state FFA convention. 2 of our students were serving as delegates, voting on constitutional changes being proposed, as well as voting for our state officer. We had a state officer candidate this year. This was the first year that we possibly could have had a state officer. You have to have 2 years of FFA experience to earn your state degree, as well as 4 ag ed classes, and countless hours invested and money invested into your supervised agriculture experience. And so we had 1 student that filled out their state degree, received it, and then wanted to run for state office. She sadly did not get state office, but is very happy with the experience that she got overall. And then we had a high school quiz bowl team compete as well as many other things. They were at workshops, they were in the expo, attending sessions, and just a lot of award highlights for our chapter.
And then real quick, the La Crosse Middle FFA chapter. So we had around 246 members of students who chose to fill out the form through our affiliation as well. So this chapter is consisting of Longfellow Middle School and Logan Middle School. It is the first middle school chapter actually in the state of Wisconsin. And that opens up a lot of new opportunities for students. We are the first district that chose to do it, and I've been getting questions from Green Bay and Pulaski now that are actually going to be launching middle school chapters as well, so we'll be helping them along with that process. So that's pretty exciting that we'll have some other middle school chapters as well. Some highlights: we had 6 students attend our fire conference. Fire stands for Foundations in Reaching Excellence. We took them down the Western Tech. 5 students went to a conference called Experiencing Discovery, Growth, and Excellence in Green Bay back in the spring. We had a middle school quiz bowl team, and they were quite diehard. They really wanted to practice every single morning before school, and it really did pay off. They got 3rd overall at the contest, which for a first-year chapter is really, really impressive. We're really proud of them. And we even had 1 student compete in extemporaneous speaking, which is an extremely hard event. He's in 8th grade, and he placed 4th overall, actually, and mainly competed against juniors and seniors in high school. So we are really excited to see what several years of him competing can lead to with that. We brought 2 teams down to our regional career development events down at UW-Platteville. 5 students headed to state convention where we had people participate in the middle school essay contest. We got the Pride Award, which is 10 plus members added. For the first year, we added 246, so well over that 10. We were newly chartered, and we actually had our middle schoolers help with the state officer candidates in their facilitation things. So they were running mock workshops, and our middle schoolers got to be themselves in the rooms and kind of let those state officers facilitate mock workshops for them.
Kind of the breakdown of our FFA membership. We have it broken down by grade. 7th grade obviously making up a large majority of our FFA membership. But then on the high school level, we're seeing a pretty even split come across, with more of our students being freshmen and sophomores involved in the program. Agriculture has some of the most offerings for freshmen and underclassmen to take coming in, so we see a high enrollment in our classes with freshmen. And then our FFA membership breakdown by ethnicity. This is all stuff that like National FFA tracks for us through our membership rosters. Some community connections. So we are partnering with a lot of different community organizations. Grow Lacrosse is one that we've been partnering with and trying to figure out ways to work in what they teach students at the younger elementary level to really build and continue to grow upon in the high school. Renew the Block with their program happening at Logan Middle. We're very excited to get in on the community garden spaces and the school garden spaces and the edible forest and stuff that they're creating this year. Gunderson Community Garden, they're starting to really expand that, and they're looking for ways that we at the high school level can really help out and help them increase that space and get it working. Western Tech, every 7th grader goes to Western Tech and they get to experience that campus, and Donna Gady, who runs that kind of program over there, she is also our main contact for our transcripted credits. So we work with her a lot, and she usually tries to come into our classrooms in the spring to talk about credits that students have earned and can then transcript out elsewhere. And then the Outdoor Recreation Association, working with them on how can we work with them in their new property that they acquired and make it a community space, whether that's sunflower fields and things like that. And so very excited to continue that partnership.
All right, so some stuff about the future of our program. As we continue to expand, we're kind of changing our placements between the schools that we're in. We'll both be teaching one middle school, one high school, which is exciting. So we're working to build more community partnerships, see different places that we can take students for those field experiences, and learn from industry professionals. We're gonna continue to expand our class offerings, create more capstone opportunities for students, and just expand into those other pathways within agriculture, food, and natural resources. The new greenhouse has a projected date of October, I believe, was the most recent we heard of opening. We've been filling out more grant applications for different things like grow towers, ed racks, things like that. We've been exploring different field trips and guest speakers to incorporate college and career readiness. We incorporate through our supervised agricultural experiences and ACP components as well. We also have a lot of new opportunities for students, dual credit, expansion and exploration, certifications through our courses, apprenticeships, job shadows, and we are hoping to add an agri-science advisory board as well. For FFA, we hope to expand partnerships with Quick Trip and lots of different opportunities with that. Opportunities for members, more proficiency applications, leadership development events. We will host again next year. Have students go down to UW Platteville and hopefully up to UW River Falls for career development events, and have them really compete in teams that interest them and maybe tie to the courses that they are already in as well. Have more state degrees, American FFA degrees, hopefully incorporate some agri-science fair projects where they can compete with a lot of different lab experiences that we do in our classes already. Addition of community service and social activities on the chapter level. We refined our officer election process to make it more equitable between the 4 schools as well. And we are adding lacrosse FFA alumni and supporters, partnering with actually someone who is working at UW Lacrosse who studied agricultural education in college and then moved here to work at the university level and really wants to flagship it for us. So those are some exciting components with the next couple of years. Lots of moving parts, but really exciting. Is that it? I believe so.
Okay, so there was a lot of information that we just shared, and as you can probably see, we have 2 very passionate, committed educators. I just have to share that they're both from the same small town of Maisel-Maney.
Yeah.
And you grew up how many blocks apart?
Like 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Our
But when
moms work on the same factory line even.
we posted and met them and hired them separately, but it's a ton of fun to work with both of our instructors. I'm incredibly proud of this program, Agri Science Education, and of course the Career and Technical Student Organization. But like I said, we shared a lot of information, so if there are questions or comments for either of them or for myself.
Mr. Newmeister?
Thank you. Could you tell us how long that grant is for that farm beat? You said it was just a 1 year, or is it?
Yeah, so it was a 1-year grant. We were able to apply for $500 after receiving, so they sent over 10 Microsoft tablets that the students can use, and then all the programming stuff. And so then they also provided a $500 grant throughout that first year if we needed to purchase more kits and things like that for the students to use.
And just on a side note, my niece McKenna was FFA, and she's very proud of it and talks about it quite often, and she had a great time, so thank you.
Mr. or Dr. Sprague?
I think it was in the wildlife or welfare class, you talked about a jump from 28 to 42 students from fall to spring. So you're obviously talking about adding sections of classes as well. What kind of capacity do you have to continue to grow, as presumably that gigantic middle school class is going to continue in this pathway? What does that next couple of years look like for you?
So from surveying the 7th graders at the end of each term, it looks like there's a lot of interest for students going to Central High School in the animal science pathways. A lot of them are interested in large animal and companion animal and the animal care class in general. And on the north side, we had a lot of students who were interested in the wildlife and natural resources pathway and the plant science pathway. So I expect kind of each school to kind of see some bubbles in the numbers, especially once those 8th graders are registering for courses come this fall and early spring.
I can probably just add a little bit to that real quick about the FTE. So if you noticed in the beginning, they each shared where they taught last year and where they're teaching next year. We're going like this across town with their positions, and they're both still smiling with that. And I believe you're both on a 1.2 for next year, so traveling teachers. But the reason that we did that, looping would be great, but crossing town, because we couldn't make one teacher 1.4 and the other one 1.0 traveling. So they're both jumping into something totally new this year, which has been wonderful to have you be willing to do that. And the reason why the yeses came was because they knew we wanted to be able to fill as many sections as we could, that students were asking and requesting. We didn't want to have to cut sections, especially as we're offering additional courses within the pathway.
That's great, thanks.
Mr. Bagneski?
I don't know, this should be for all apprentice type courses, but how do you arrive at certification? I mean, with the students in your class, you get dual certification. Do you take a test? How does that work? Do you write a paragraph, paper? What's used to determine yes?
So for the dual credit with Western Tech, they provide us with, so we have our curriculum and then they have their animal science course that they teach at Western Tech, and they will provide us with a list of competencies that they teach within their class. And if we align our competencies and standards with them as well, as long as those students pass our class with the C or better, they've also met those competencies of Western Tech.
Okay, thank you.
Did we have students participate at the Lacrosse Interstate Fair this year?
We did not have students compete under or participate under Lacrosse FFA, but I do have a bunch of students that are involved in their local 4-H programs. And so one of my students was showing goats this year. There was another student that was showing crops, some woodworking. So they're definitely there. They're just not under Lacrosse FFA, so they can show through their 4-H's, and a lot of them will stay with that.
That's awesome. I go every year and look at all the animals and vote on the woodworking projects and check out all the arts and crafts and plants, and usually take some plants home that my cats kill in short order. But it's just such a wonderful program. I grew up in rural Texas. FFA is a huge part of everyday life in my high school growing up, and all my friends were involved in it. So I think it's awesome that you're keeping this tradition alive and helping kids get that kind of experience, hands-on experience with FFA stuff.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Can I just bring up one thing? I think it's FFA, you know, back in the 1800s when I went to school, it was just rural schools that offered this. You know, you think of, you know, people living in farms and stuff. I think it's wonderful that we've opened the horizons for these city slicker kids to have this opportunity, so I appreciate that, and thank you.
A little known fact about the school district, we're 2/3 rural by area.
Yep.
So, yeah. So up on the ridge and out south towards DeSoto, there's some dairy farms and some crop agriculture, and I'm sure some of those kids are interested, but I think to your point, Mr. Newmeister, right here in town, we have fisheries, we have forestry, we have urban forestry. There's so many opportunities right here for kids to experience agriculture in their daily lives, and so everybody should get this experience.
Yeah, I first of all want to say congratulations on the first middle school chapter. That's a big deal. And congratulations to the student that ran for state office. That's a big deal too. So, Meredith, I went to a school where I grew up on a farm, and so yeah, FFA's is a big deal. I was going to ask about the fair and what your involvement was with the fair, although Meredith beat me to that one. There's also June Dairy Days, and that was, La Crosse County didn't have it in '24, but it was taken over by the St. Joe's Lions in this year, and so, and I think that's in our school district, and so I understand they plan to do it next year. I think that'd be a great opportunity for your students. Even if they can't attend it, there's, you know, the decorations and the planning and the signs, and I volunteered at it this year, and there's so much work that precedes the actual event. So I think that'd be a cool opportunity as well.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping to have more kids participate in things like that. We just didn't have the timing for getting out to the La Crosse Dairy Days and helping out with that. So we're hoping next year that we'll have some kids volunteering out there and helping.
And it's St. Joseph Lions, and if you need any, I've got some connections, so if you need that, let me know. So thank you, congratulations. Any other questions?
Kudos to the kids participating in extemp too. I did that in high school, and it's intense. It can be intense.
He said he was interested in it. I was like, oh, after him looking through the whole catalog, I was like, oh, that's the one you chose for your first year. Okay. But he did phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the update.
Thank you so much.
We will then go on to the superintendent's consent agenda. The consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items members want to remove from the consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you get the names, Laura? Okay. I do have a question. I see some of, particularly TAs were resigning in July, but our fiscal year starts July 1st. How does their contract start July 1st, or how does that work? I was just kind of curious about that.
They're continuously employed with us, so it's a weird thing about schools. We don't work for 3 months, but we still consider them our employees. And so when they notify us of their resignation, that's when we process it. So we had planned on them starting on, August, 19th with everyone else, but they found other employment.
Okay, just curious about that. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, roll call, thank you.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Vigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Supla?
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to the board consent agenda. The board consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items the members want to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we look for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
I'm back,
Wow,
guys.
he's speedy there.
Beat you.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Vigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Supla?
Aye. Okay, move on to items reserved for board action. The first one this evening is OE8. And this is administration will present any recommended changes to the template. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. So we had presented OE8 back in July, and we're presenting recommendations for changes to the monitoring policy for the next year. So if you are scrolling through OE8, you'll notice that there's some areas with no changes that we're recommending, but OE 8.2, indicator 1, we're suggesting that this be combined with OE 8.6, which talks about similar material and feels more fitting, and then renumbering indicator 1, or indicator 2 is number 1. 8.4, our goal here was to create indicators that aligned better with the policy language. And so as we were reading the prior indicators, for example, indicator 1, provide adequate information for board members to fulfill their elected responsibilities. We thought we could align a little bit better with the policy language above, and indicated our recommendation is instead, throughout the monitoring process, a variety of internal and external viewpoints are incorporated. Feel that it'll be clear alignment with the school board's policy, and more clear what we're supposed to gather for the school board in that process. The same for indicator 2, trying to become more specific as it relates to the policy language above. 8.6, we thought that it would be better to combine with that measure from 8.2. It's related to significant media coverage, and instead of having a kind of a negative statement like we didn't do a thing, making it a positive thing, hey, here's where we did stuff. And so in that case, changing it from 0 complaints to provide timely updates to the Board of Education upon anticipated significant media coverage.
We can still complain though, right?
Absolutely, complaints are always welcome.
How will you measure that differently?
Previously, when it was 0 complaints, we would submit a letter that said, we received no complaints. In this case, we will list the areas where we sent out notice to the board, hey, this is coming, you might see this in the news. And there are any number of times throughout the school year where I'll send an email to the school board, or have a verbal conversation with folks where we're outlining that. And so last year's monitoring report had, I think, a short list of 5 or 6 items where we had said, hey, there was this incident at Central, you might see this in the news, be prepared. Or, you know, the state budget's coming, you know, let you know that it could impact how people reach out to the school board, you know, so some of those sorts of things. So it'll go from a letter that says we were in compliance to a list of items where coverage was provided.
Thank you.
Down
Do you have
in,
a question?
No, I was just waiting for the next one.
Okay.
down in 8.8 for indicator 1, we felt that it was a bit redundant with some other measures in here, so we struck our clearly organized, etc., and instead board agendas are organized so that the purpose of each agenda item is clear. I guess it's not redundant. It was not how we think about our board agendas, and you know, frankly, it's not the superintendent's responsibility to put together agenda ultimately either. It's the school board president's, but it's our job to articulate the school board president's will as we're putting these agendas together. So instead of saying organized for communication, monitoring, or results compliance, just so that the purpose of each agenda item is clear, the titles that we have in each of our sections make it very obvious what we're doing, and so the language that we had previously didn't make sense. And then the last one, indicator 2 there, superintendent presents information in a simple and concise form. You know, the additional explanation there, you know, didn't seem to reflect the language that we use on a regular basis. The language stating, indicating clearly whether it's for whether the information is incidental, intended for decision preparation, or for formal monitoring. Once again, that's pretty much covered in our board agenda and how we structure things. It's clear if it's for action, for information, etc. But the simple and concise form was related to the policy element above. And those are the recommendations we have. I would count most of them as editorial, moving some things around. Functionally, you'll be receiving a very similar report next year.
I thought they read very well, now that they're cleaned up that way. I mean, they were a better rendition of what you wanted to say.
Excellent.
Any comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the recommended changes to OE8, communicating with and support for the board monitoring report template.
So moved.
Seconded.
Do you have a motion and a second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Begneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to Operational Expectations Monitoring Report OE9, communicating with the public and key stakeholders. Overview.
Yeah, so this is a part of our monitoring process. This is where we present evidence for OE9, communicating with the public and key stakeholders. As we have for the last number of months, we've got an executive summary there that kind of provides an overview of some big things that we pulled out of this report. You can certainly read that yourselves. Part of our district visioning has been captured in here. But also excited to see our Facebook reach this last school year exceeded 1 million individuals. So some of the changes that we've made to short video, to photo reels have made a difference in terms of people choosing to select our Facebook page and going to it on a regular basis. And so that has been a positive development. And our school communications department of one, Nick Marcoux, also won 10 awards for excellence from the National School Public Relations Associations for our PR efforts. Does some great job in producing content, and it has made a difference. So I'll jump into the report. Just 2 real policy elements, and I think just a handful of indicators. The first indicator on OE 9.1, which is ensuring a timely flow of information, appropriate input, and strategic two-way communication between the district and the public that builds understanding and support for the district efforts. Indicator 1 is information to stakeholders will be done in a timely flow. The first piece of evidence is a non-exhaustive list of all the ways our schools communicate. And that's really the primary way we're communicating as a school district. It's directly to parents, and families in our community through school principals, through teachers. It happens on a very regular basis. If you're in kindergarten or 4K, it's almost daily. I see their Parent Square reports, and it's incredible all the pictures and updates that they're sending. And then, of course, as kids get older, parents are more trusting of their environment at school and often need less and less communication. Second piece of evidence is the role our school communications department plays. There's a link there to a report that Mr. Marcoux put together that talks about the mission and objectives of our communications department, achievements and recognitions, and some of the impacts and benefits that we continue to provide, as well as the partnerships and platforms that we're using to ensure that good information gets out there. Parent-teacher organizations meet on a regular basis in order to connect to schools, to disseminate information, and we have a district-wide parent committee that meets every month as well. I think we do a great job in distributing our Code of Rights and Responsibilities and seeking input from the community on how to modify that each year. Some more evidence regarding school board meetings, our newsletter and open house packets, district letters. Newsletters are sent to staff regarding key issues in each department every month. Indicator 2, the superintendent shall engage in two-way communication regarding the direction of the district and to build understanding and support for the district. We meet with representative groups on a wide range of issues. There's a document there that is 8 pages in length of groups that we meet with on a regular basis, indicates the membership and frequency, their purpose and role, a wide range of different issues that we're working with families in the community on.
Does that list include all the outreach you did during the visioning process?
I think down below in this list, we talk about that.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
at the, towards the end, yep,
Okay,
yep.
'cause that was substantial.
Yeah. I mentioned district-wide parents. It's a great way for two-way conversation. They can raise issues and concerns, and we're able to either immediately address those or raise those to a higher level to ensure that they're actioned. We're also able to provide updates to them on things going on in the school district, so it's a great two-way communication platform. I meet with stakeholders throughout the community on a regular basis, either quarterly or monthly or weekly, depending on the group, and that has been valuable in terms of communicating what's going on in the school district and receiving information on what's going on in the community. Attended a variety of events. Been fortunate to be on WISM on a regular basis. This summer, it's been almost every Monday morning. Didn't have to go on this morning, so that was nice. But that's been a great platform to celebrate accomplishments in the schools, to talk about what's pertinent right now, and to promote the great things that are going on. The Leadership SDLC group that we have in partnership with the La Crosse Public Education Foundation. It's a select group of thought leaders, so to speak, in our community that we bring in once a month on Friday mornings to have a conversation around public education, to learn more about kind of a peek behind the curtain, in-depth learning about the school district, and then to also receive feedback on their experiences to make change. That's been very positive. It's been our second year of that. And then to Ms. Sukla's point, we had our district visioning survey that went out this year. We had 2,299 responses. And we also met with 284 community members through 22 focus groups to gather information. So felt it was a really good experience. Good information that quickly we saw was consistent across types of groups across the community. Indicator 3 is the district communicates emergency or safety notices, district school closings and delays, reminders of alternate schedules and no school days, and translates these messages appropriately. Our website has school closings and delays, and you can certainly see on Facebook where we've sent those out. This last year, we only had one closing, so there was more hope maybe than realization for some folks. And then we absolutely send out reminders of alternate schedules and no school days. Those are published in our district calendars and made available to all families. We're communicating heavily that we start earlier this year right now. We start on August 21st. It's in alignment with our private school friends in town. It'll lower our transportation costs and create a really neat schedule this year where we have a full spring break for a week, and then we're done by June 1st. So really nice calendar this year. We also have different start times this year, and we're communicating that heavily to our families. For the high school students, it'll be approximately the same, but for elementary schools, they'll start at 7:45 and into 2:25, and our middle schools will be starting almost an hour later, 8:25 through 3:30. So much more developmentally appropriate for adolescent children, and we're anticipating increases in attendance, lowered behavioral issues, and increases in academic achievement over time. So excited about that. And then news releases.
We have a question.
Well, going back, you can think of me as Scott Newmeister. Says you're met with Central students on a regular basis from the Student Senate. How come not Logan?
Logan doesn't have a student senate. This comes up every time we mention this. And as a result, there's not a group to meet with in the same way. We're still exploring how to meet with a representative group of Logan students. I love the opportunity. It's awesome. It's basically they put together their agenda and the questions they want to ask me, and it's, I'll answer anything they're trying to get after. And so it's been a really positive experience. I've also been able to ask them some questions about things. Things I thought they really cared about, sometimes they don't, and or vice versa. And so it's been very interesting to have that perspective. But yes, still looking for the right group to meet with that Logan.
Thank you.
You missed it, Scott.
Oh, Scott's asked that one before.
I've asked it, yes. That's why I left it alone.
Exactly. Asked and answered, right? Indicator 4 is news releases and story ideas are submitted weekly to a local newspaper while school is in session. We don't just submit them to the local newspaper, it's also to all the news media, the news stations by TV and radio. Nick has a great weekly process of just letting them know, hey, here's what's going on. They pick up some stuff, they don't others. They used to pick up more when they were better staffed. It's very hard out there in media right now. And so we see fewer stories being picked up at the local level than we have historically. But we keep doing our best we can to get that stuff out there. OE 9.2, prepare and publish on behalf of the board annual progress report, including A, B, and C. Indicators 1, 2, and 3 address those. Indicator 1, providing community stakeholders a link to state-required student performance. We have those report cards linked on our website. Make available to the board and all community stakeholders link to the district's annual adopted plan. Our budget plan's available through an annual public hearing, and it's also on our website. And then superintendent shall post all Board of Education business materials meetings, meeting materials and minutes on the district website in compliance with state open meetings law, and that's all up on Board Talks within the required time frame. And we try and go above and beyond by providing things to our best of our ability on Thursday, so that we have a full 5 days prior to the meeting and a full 48 hours of open meetings law time for folks to access that. And that is the report. Happy to take any questions.
I do want to say to presenters from earlier, you can stay for this, but if you want to leave, we wouldn't be offended. So I just want to
Yes,
make sure
absolutely.
it looks like a beautiful night, so I'm just saying. Any questions, board members? Yes, Dr. Sprague.
I'm really curious what the practice has been around promoting the district-wide parent committee, but PTO involvement in general. I know at all of our schools we have what might be considered small but mighty crews who are pretty dedicated. And like, how do we, as the district, support that level of parent engagement?
Yeah, it's really done at a school-by-school basis. And so our principals do their best to recruit parents. You know, it's challenging in any school, anywhere across the country, you know, to find folks with the time and energy and curiosity to devote to that particular endeavor. It's easier at the lower elementary, and it gets harder and harder as kids get a little bit older. You know, our middle school PTOs are a couple parents often, even though they're the size of 4 elementary schools. And so it's really the grassroots level, the folks that know people, and it's often parent to parent. You know, a new parent comes in, and it's other parents recruiting them to the PTOs. There are certainly trends and correlations with, you know, available time and money, you know, for families. You know, we see a little less participation where there's more economic hardship, and a little more participation where there's maybe more time available for families. And so that is a small trend, but our parents our principals, I think, do a great job in trying to build those PTOs out to the best that they can. And it looks different in different places as a result. You know, sometimes there's a school community that just has a lot of trust in the 4 people that are running it, and other times it's 40 people because everybody wants to be involved and get their hands dirty. So, not a great answer, but we do our best at the local level recruiting. It'd be hard from the district office to recruit people to State Roads PTO.
Other questions?
I was wondering, you were talking about you're pursuing avenues to talking about Logan. What are those avenues kind of to talk to the Logan students? What are you thinking?
Yeah, they have other groups that get together, whether it's class officers, whether it's a homecoming committee. You know, it just needs to be students who are curious to talk to us, you know, and who have some time set aside. There's also you know, affinity groups, you know, whether it's the Southeast Asian Club or the Black Student Union. You know, in choosing the Student Senate, we're looking for a body that might send somebody here, and so it feels representative of the whole school. You know, Logan has, you know, operated a little, you know, in ways that benefit them, and so just trying to find the right group there, and I'm certain this year we'll find it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion regarding compliance.
get the language. I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
In regard to the monitoring report for policy OE9, communicating with the public and key stakeholders, and with respect to the provisions of policy BSR5, superintendent accountability, the Board of Education concludes that the superintendent and district are in compliance.
Do you have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Begneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We'll then move on to results monitoring report R3, involves citizenship. And many of these reports have come to us under information at previous meetings. This is kind of putting it all together and looking for our action regarding reasonable progress.
So in support of that, Ms. Carrie Huth, our Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment, will give us a high-level overview of the report, just to kind of refresh your memory. We can happily answer any questions and then move forward.
Okay, moving into, if I start shivering, it's really cold on this half of the room. I don't know if it is there.
Cold up here.
I'm like, my toes are cold, my nose is cold, so I apologize if I start to shiver a little. We are here to review the results monitoring executive summary for R3, involves citizenship, where students will demonstrate social and cultural competency necessary to participate as contributing citizens in diverse and global communities. Within there are 4 elements, and that's what we have reviewed over the last several months of board meetings: R3.1, R3.2, R3.3, and R3.4, which include understand and exercise the rights and responsibilities of citizenship in our democratic society, demonstrate effective skills in team as well as individual endeavors, demonstrate effective communication skills, and demonstrate in an understanding of good stewardship toward the environment. Within those 4 elements, there are 12 indicators. Within those 12 indicators, as reviewed on the front page of the executive summary, we do have 7 of the 12 that we have met reasonable progress, including and highlighting 40% of our students in grade 6-12 are involved in 2 or more co-curricular activities, and continuing to increase the understanding of good stewardship in our environment. That's where Mr. Tim Sprain came and spoke, and Dr. Rotering was here in our last meeting talking more about 3.2. So out of the 12 indicators, we have 7 that have been met in 5 areas that we are not making reasonable progress. We are close in many of those areas, but there are also areas that we continue to review and put effort into, including our one of the areas we did not meet was our writing indicator, and so we continue to look across our curriculum in ways that we can support writing in all content areas, as well as professional development for our staff to improve the teaching of writing in not only our elementaries, but our middles and our high school across the content areas. So with that, we would mark as this last 12 months of data has shown that we're making reasonable progress with the exceptions noted. Questions, comments?
Just a reminder, like with the writing one, you'll see that we increased in our proficiency, but they kind of moved the goalpost this year. And so when we look at the gap with the state, it grew at a time when we would have wanted to at least maintain. So felt like we were honest in indicating we had not met progress there. The other one that's potentially debatable would be the voter registration. We saw a decline from 39.7% in 23 to 27.4% in 24. That said, the state voter registration saw a 14% decline when we only saw a 12% decline. And so, that's one of those ones where we definitely saw it go down, but relative to the state, perhaps we held our own, if not increased a little bit as it relates.
National election years tend to have higher
Yeah, for sure.
We also,
registration levels.
Do you measure the fall, or just, how do you measure that again?
It's spring to spring,
Okay.
so at the end of the 24 year, so that would have been before the November election. so it's an off year, we're measuring which students registered. And sometimes you get more summer birthdays too, or it's, after April, so there isn't like an incentive to register for a while as well, depending on the cohort of kids. And so there's going to be a natural fluctuation that comes, but we're trying to compare ourselves to the state average and try and beat that if we can. And so if there was an area where we could quibble, that would be it. But regardless, we feel confident with this report that we've got measures in place to improve those that need to be. Particularly in the writing, I think we've got some really strong stuff coming at the secondary level with SRSD and the elementary level as well.
Correct.
Dr. Sprague?
Thank you. I'm curious about our 3.3 indicator 4, the world language proficiency, and because the data we have is limited to the most recent 2 years, is it possible that, because some of the drops in percentages are disappointing, right? Is it possible that those percentages are also reflecting students who have taken the highest level course we offer and therefore are no longer taking one and not being counted in those proficiency levels? Does that make sense how I'm saying that?
To an extent, yes.
All
And
right.
I also think that Dr. Engel and I talked about this one specifically as well in regards to only having the 2 years of data. And also knowing that, when we wrote it, looking at the 90% as the percentage we chose, and is that based on, is that the right benchmark we needed to set in regards to, not having the data previously and then writing this to show growth.
Right.
Do you add to that?
So we looked at the data from 22-23 as we were setting our percentage for proficiency or for reasonable growth. And so we thought, 90% seems a conservative mark for that cohort of kids, but maybe that is not typical. Maybe they were outliers. And so I think a couple more years of data will let us know if 90% is a reasonable benchmark objectively, or do we need to look at something different? We went from 95.3 to 81% in Chinese, 88% in German to 76. Everything went down some, and obviously we want them to go up, but sometimes there's anomalies.
I'm also just curious because if a different kind of measure, and I don't know what it might be, because when we have 46 students studying Hmong but 730 studying Spanish, 90% looks a lot different, and so it's a brute measure in that regard. But I don't know what an alternative would be. So.
Yeah, we tried to use a kind of objective benchmark in terms of a test. So the American Council on Teaching a Foreign Language we feel is a great assessment tool because it's kind of universal. We might have to explore more what a typical passage rate is across the country, and if that's 90%, then excellent. We'll leave that there and we'll work to achieve it. If it's more typical of students to be receiving the 80th percentile or 80%, then maybe that would be a better benchmark in the future. This is an example of one of those things where we pick something and we're going to monitor it. High goals are good, and we'll see if it's the right benchmark as we move forward.
I have a related but somewhat tangential question. Do we already collect, or would it be possible to find out, it doesn't have to be in this monitoring report if it's not germane, but the percentage of our students in each area that we teach who are heritage speakers?
What was the last part of that?
Are we able to look at the percentage of the students in the languages that we teach who are actually heritage speakers as well?
I'm sure that we could, based on a survey of our students.
Okay, might just be interesting to know for context to the statistics, I think.
Yeah, it would be interesting, and I think this assessment is also looking at more formal language, and so a family might grow up speaking Spanish in the home, but it's maybe more culturally relevant and not formal in terms, and especially if they're approaching foreign language for the first time in middle or high school, they may have spent the majority of their life speaking the language in a more casual way as opposed to the more formal way that they're going to be assessed on in this assessment. And so, sometimes it's harder Because maybe there's no writing experience either, which would also be but that's a great question to ask and would be interesting, especially for something like Hmong, which I think we're really proud to offer here because we feel it matches a cultural need in our community. But we also know that there's a lot of white students who do not have a Hmong background who are taking this class because they find it culturally relevant for the community they're growing up in. So.
And we also know that some of the, like Hmong is an area of growth for our foreign language. We have added FTE for Hmong over the last several years, the Hmong language.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? Otherwise, we look for a motion about making reasonable progress with exceptions noted.
So moved.
Second? Dr. Sprague is looking perplexed.
Well, since we have the motion in the second, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. I'm not happy with obviously what is it, 5 out of, can't do the math off my head, out of 12 indicators, right? But it doesn't mean that 5 of them are at 0, right? So just wasn't sure. I wasn't ready to jump in on that one. Sorry.
We have a motion on the table. Any other questions? We'll look for a roll call vote.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Vigeski?
Aye.
Ms. Hooks?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Supla?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Carrie.
We'll move to the information section of the meeting. Our first report is on Fund 80 Community Services Programs and Service Overview.
So this is a kind of an update we give annually, just kind of describing Fund 80 and some of the programs that we have in this program, some of the data that we've collected over the year that highlights some of those programs, and it feeds into a larger conversation about Fund 80 for the following year. And so we have a potential proposal for this next year that comes right after this, and then no decision will be made until the next school board meeting in terms of how to proceed with Fund 80 and that levy. This all feeds into our larger budget process. We need to have this ironed out as we develop our budgets so that we can submit something for our budget hearing for the public. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kurt Teff to kind of talk through Fund 80 and the programs that we've had for this last year.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me here tonight. So tonight is going to be broad overview, a lot of different programs that we support through Fund 80. Some of them we've had for a long time, some are relatively new. I'll be able to speak to each of them. Some of them we directly oversee and support right within the Community Services Department. So Fund 80, a little bit of information around Fund 80. Some conditions anytime that we're leveraging Fund 80 to support costs. That these need to be outside the regular curriculum. You can't leverage Fund 80 to do anything that schools would otherwise try to accomplish. Also, anything that we're attempting to fund with Fund 80 can't be sustained if for some reason the Fund 80 dollars ended up ending. So that's some context with this as well. And then the final condition is it's available to any resident student. So you're going to hear a lot of programs that are maybe connected to schools, or I'm referencing schools. I want you to understand all those programs are available to even private school students, and many participate in it, which is terrific that it's available for the community. So give you a little bit of context, the way that we just largely think about our work within community services and impact, and I think it's relevant to even Fund 80. There's a lot of things that impact student achievement and well-being, and many of those things are well within our control. We get to pick the teachers and the school leaders, and we get to pick the curriculum and
make decisions about resources and facilities. There's a number of factors that are less within our control. Not that they're totally outside our control, they're just less within our control. Early life experiences, economic stability. And we know a lot of those things have big impacts on kids' ability to be at school ready to learn. Part of that is, it's hard to imagine, but we share this with a lot of groups, school only represents about 25% of awake hours for kids. So I know school feels like a big part of the year. When you add it all up, it ends up being, I think, 16% of all hours, 25% of awake hours. So there's interest, and you'll see a lot of the programs that we help support through Fund 80 really do target that time outside of school, making sure kids are supported. So that's really where a lot of the conversation, a lot of the programs I'm going to outline tonight is really programs targeting those factors that are typically outside of the school day. The work that we've done within Fund 80 fits really well with a lot of the work that we've learned through community schools. One of the concepts within community schools is an inside and out strategy, meaning you're doing the right things within school, but you're also strategizing outside the school day because, again, it represents just so much time. But we largely leverage Fund 80 to partner with our community to help ensure kids are at school ready to learn, on track to graduate, that they're mentally healthy, that they remain out of the criminal justice system, all, inspiring outcomes that we'd want for kids within our community. We've organized these strategies kind of into 4 buckets here, so I'll talk about each one of them separately. One of them is enhancing early childhood development, empowering youth beyond the school day, strengthening community connections and engagement, and then fostering school and community justice. So we'll start with enhanced early childhood development. This is a relatively new part of our strategy. This was something that the board had approved last year. For those of you who are on the board, remember us really talking about, gosh, that early life experience, such a critical window, the number of connections that kids are making in the experience that they have. And one of the things that we've learned is what surrounds us shapes us. And that's true for kids. And some of the data that Dr. Engel had shared last year really pointing to some of our outcomes can be directly tied to adversity that's within our community. Early life adversity or economic adversity. And youth end up getting influenced by a lot of different things. Certainly the social context of the family they're in and how they're growing up. But there's also the environment that they're living in, the neighborhood that they're living in, the resources they have access to, and then larger systemic things. And so the work within our early childhood impact has begun. We ended up hiring an impact coordinator. A little bit later, we had some delays in hiring, so we're just starting to get into some of this work, but we do have a coordinator. We are anticipating her coming to your next board meeting to share an update on more of the details of what's happening, because we know there's a lot of interest in this area. But we're currently in developing the needs and asset assessment. So we have a community steering committee made up of leaders from our big health systems, from higher education, from child care, from family and youth serving organizations. And so we pulled that steering committee together, and that is the group that's helping to develop the needs and asset assessment. So very exciting work. Looking forward to meeting our new coordinator, Michelle Sampson, at a future meeting. Empower youth beyond the school day. So this is really targeting out-of-school time programming. Here's just a summary of some of the research around out-of-school time programming, the benefits of making sure kids have safe places to be after school and are engaged in quality programming. Last year we expanded, so through Fund 80 for a long time we've supported out-of-school time programming. We had an increase last year. to be able to target staffing ratios, to be able to maintain some programming on the north and south end of town. So current Fund 80 programming doesn't pay for all of the out-of-school time programming, but it helps the Boys and Girls Club offer at no cost out-of-school time programming at a number of sites within our community for youth. It's used. So this is some data from Boys and Girls Club. We have about 1,200 students that are attending out-of-school time programming with them. A lot of the students are in, this is self-reported. We don't share free and reduced lunch data with Boys and Girls Club, but they collect it, based on surveys from parents. But 70 to 75% of the youth attending these programs are reporting some type of economic adversity within programming. And you'll see some connections later, even when I talk about community schools, we high levels of satisfaction with parents feeling like they have safe places for their kids to be after school. So there's connections across a lot of these out-of-school time programs.
I have a really quick, silly question on that.
Yeah.
Those, like, the single family, that refers to single parent families?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Just, it's different.
Yeah. In the area of strengthening community connections and engagements, a lot of different programs. A lot of these are historical programs within Fund 80, our cultural liaisons, our community school coordinators, community impact coordinators, Lacrosse Promises in there, and then the graduation specialist, Be Great Graduate. And that's a program that we had added some funding to last year. So we'll go through these. Our cultural liaison program's been supported through Fund 80 for a long time. And this is the work of Mr. Tony Yang and Ms. Laura Abalera. And really, they work, it's amazing the scope of work that they do within the district, being able to work directly with students and families, being able to work at like a district and school level and be able to get in and help schools and families connect and navigate challenges. And then their work within the community, working with community stakeholders. So this is a program that fits within that strategy. Our community schools, so I've got a couple of end-of-year reports that are in here. So Northside Elementary and Hamilton Elementary are both community schools. And this is a strategy we've been implementing for about 7 years now. In community schools, really are designed to be able to address needs within a community where a lot of times the needs are exhausting the supports available. And I always share, like, all of our schools in some ways are doing the work of community schools in the sense that we're trying to meet needs. If kids are hungry, we're getting them food. If they're cold, we get them coats. In our community schools, really we're seeing just such concentrations of need that we need a systemic strategy. And so what I hope you'll notice in these reports is just the high levels of engagement. So I know earlier we were talking about surveys and other feedback. Our target is 75 to 100% participation from our students, our families, and our community to help drive strategies. This isn't the district telling the community what they need and what we're going to do. This is us completing needs and asset assessment, getting to know the community and having the community prioritize what they need. So you'll be able to see in there number of partnerships that they've developed over the year. Our schools develop every month. They've got a newsletter on community schools. This one is Hamilton's. I'll just share a quick story on Hamilton. Hamilton has been, like a lot of schools, working to target absenteeism. One of the breakthroughs that they ended up having this year, they had a nominal increase in attendance, but one of the big shifts that they have been able to see is absenteeism for no call, no show has dropped, and we're seeing more absenteeism due to illness, which is, a good thing, because it tells us families are engaged, they're calling to let us know when they're sick. And now the strategy is now changed to how do we communicate with families and provide supports in a way where we can make sure kids are coming to school when they are healthy and that they're only staying home when they can't be at school. So just been a terrific strategy for those two neighborhoods. For Hamilton, they wrote for a 21st Century grant. Thankfully, those dollars got released. Those were some federal dollars that were held up for a period of time, but allowed Hamilton to be able to work with Boys and Girls Club to operate a Sail to Success program, which is targeted intervention for kids in K to 2, available district-wide, so not just Hamilton students. But as you can see, being able to provide targeted after-school support, academic support has really made a difference for students in that program. Community impact. So this has been a kind of a longer term now strategy. So this work started in the Huber neighborhood out on the south end of town and then expanded into the Shoe Mullen neighborhood on the north side of town. Both of those neighborhoods are La Crosse Housing Authority properties, and kind of the background on it, we got involved largely because we were seeing carrying issues into the school, and we ended up having some resources to be able to work with community partners to stabilize those neighborhoods. This has been a terrific partnership. We're still active in both neighborhoods. I'll tell you, Huber is really stabilized. We used to see a lot of turnover within those neighborhoods. There's high levels of satisfaction. There actually isn't all that much turnover. So we've seen a lot of growth within the Huber neighborhood. It's only 40 households, so it's a little bit smaller. Shoe Mullen is 140 households, and we're working on a scale issue. So we just submitted a 3-year, submitted 4. We haven't been awarded it yet. We hope we will. 3-year, $500,000 grant to support Shoe Mullen to be able to bring some additional resources through the Wisconsin Partnership Program. So we're keeping fingers crossed on that. But a lot of the work that we're doing within our community impact is modeled off of community schools. The people closest to the problems are often closest to the solutions. What they're not close to is the resources, influence, authority to be able to get their needs met. So we're engaging those neighborhoods much in the same way we engage community schools, talking with people who live there about what do they want? What do they need? What's getting in their way? And then we work to address that. La Crosse Promise, so that fits within this bucket. La Crosse Promise has been a tremendous partnership for the school district of La Crosse in being able to provide outreach and engage youth and families in thinking about what's next after high school. So in there I've listed all the activities that La Crosse Promise has been involved with throughout the year in working to help ensure our students, high school students, are thinking about graduation and beyond.
The La Crosse Promise Program, is that all funded by Fund 80, or how does that work?
No, it's not a percentage. I think it's a flat rate. Do you know the total?
Yep, we provide $70,000 to La Crosse Promise, and they implement the program. They also raise funds themselves in order to operate their program. That one was started, 15 years ago at this point. It started out as the idea to create a neighborhood scholarship project to encourage new builds and revitalization of a neighborhood. And then along with that process, as they examined this scholarship program, they noticed that in other places where they had done so, kids weren't successfully completing college because they weren't prepared to go. And so I think they actually started the Future Center before they actually kicked off the scholarship program, and so this has been in place a long time. We've had 2 folks implementing it historically. We were down to 1 for a period of time. We're going back up to 2 for next year. So we anticipate a lot of these numbers expanding dramatically. We'll have folks dedicated on the north side and the south side to support the middle schools and the high schools in this effort. Kathy Millard, she's a rock star, does an amazing job in this program, and we're really excited for where this takes off for next year.
Can I ask a question on that as well? you said that we supply 70,000 or 75, I couldn't remember, but how much does this cost? I mean, how much are they fundraising for? Do we have their annual budget that we know of? How much of this are we funding through our school district, I guess is my question. Is it 75%, is it 80, or?
When it started, the Fund 80 was funding just the future centers. Is that still what the?
That's still what we fund, yeah. Yeah, we're committed to that portion of it. I would estimate that when they've been down to a single person working the future centers, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 to 100% of the cost of the program. As they expand back out to two, they're not, requesting more funding, and so it'll probably go back down to about 50% of the program. And so it takes private fundraising and efforts on their end to provide the rest of that funding. And 90 might be a high, it might be 85 to 90%, because there's administrative costs and other things that they're taking the burden on.
Be Great Graduate, graduation specialist. So this was added funding last year. Historically, the Be Great Graduate has been funded directly by the Boys and Girls Club, and for a period of time they had a grant. And so last year's investment in this program ensured we had a graduation specialist at both Central and Logan High School. Targets some of our most at-risk students, students who are off track. They've fallen behind academically, they're disengaged, maybe they're not even attending. And so that's really the targeted service that the Be Great graduation specialist works on. Some outcome data, 40 students enrolled this past year. We had at times some positions that were open. We had a person who had accepted the position but ended up having some health issues, so we had some gaps within programming, but they're still maintaining high graduation rate for all the active seniors within the program. Fostering school and community justice. So within this group, we have YWCA Justice Circles, Restorative Justice Circles. So you can see some of the data on that. These justice circles might be used when there are issues to help, schools and students, or students and students work things out. But these circles are also used to help welcome new students into the school and be able to do some proactive work with students as well. System of Care, our school justice partnership. This was back in 2016. We joint fund a school justice partnership that provides early intervention for students who are engaging in what could be considered criminal misconduct. It's holding them accountable through interventions and support. So if any of you have worked with Bridget Todd Robbins, she's the System of Care administrator. Been a pretty successful program, really targeting youth who are historically overrepresented in our criminal justice system, and still maintaining a high success rate working with them on skill development. Final one in this group is our school resource officer program. So this program has changed throughout the year. We currently have 4 school resource officers. We added one last year. Year before we were at 3. Outline kind of the goals of the SRO program, and within our SRO advisory, we really organize that to be able to answer a few guiding questions, which helps us right-size that program. Making sure that school resource officers are being utilized for the right calls, not getting called in to just do school discipline. Making sure that most of the time a specially trained officer can handle that call for service. And then considering other conditions that we need to think about. So this slide really gets at the kind of a summary of the history of that feedback. Last year, one of the reasons that we were looking toward adding was we're seeing some discrepancies or some unevenness in SRO response rate times, and some concerns about call delays and things like that. I'll tell you just from the feedback from the committee and feedback from our schools and our community, people have felt really positive about returning to 4 school resource officers, 2 on the north side, 2 on the south side.
Kurt, if I can interrupt
Yeah,
you, sorry.
absolutely.
Would it be possible, maybe in the future, to see the year-over-year comparison of like the youth arrest rate as well?
Yeah.
To kind of see
Absolutely.
what impact that addition has made going forward.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is something that, that'd be, yeah, great. We collect that information. It's part of our advisory, part of our data set we look at. We look at, calls for service, arrest rates, comparative arrest rates, actually all linked back to the original report that Dr. Engel completed, so.
Just for context, I know the number's low. The number of arrests that we had last year of youth in our schools from a school-based incident, it's like the number of students was
Maybe 16
16
students, I think,
So
for maybe
the
24 incidents.
Right, so the percentage reflects of incidents at a school that an SRO was called to, that percentage led to a youth arrest.
So the way we get statistics is from the state Uniform Criminal Justice Code. It's all reported up to the state, so it'll be like 250 youth arrests in the state, or in the La Crosse community. Of those 200 some, only 16 are students in our schools.
Okay.
We pulled the data out of this,
Yeah.
but the largest place where arrests occur is in our community. The
Right.
second highest within the community is in home, and then finally it's our schools, where arrests occur. We have a very low arrest rate in our schools because we have diversion programs, we have other options, we have restorative justice options. So it's a relatively low rate regardless, but we can absolutely provide that full. We'll just share the slide deck that has all the data, and you can dive into the weeds all you like.
Yeah.
Mr. Bagneski?
Well, what differentiates, how do you decide whether it goes to restorative justice or an SRO gets involved in criminal complaint discharge?
Sure. So the system of care, for instance, is pretty prescribed. We have certain offenses that we consider, we call them focus acts, and they're essentially chargeable offenses that we think we can target better with intervention and support. So it's disorderly conduct, which is very difficult to define. That's been a positive one. Habitual truancy is one. Minor theft is one. Minor battery, so think like 2 kids are getting a tussle, and then minor property damage. And so, and there's conditions, within it. If there ends up being a victim, they have some decision on whether or not, we move forward with that. But those are largely the types of offenses we try to target.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
Just in this presentation of all the different things, Fund 80 is just a portion of it. This is funded, you're talking about grants, there's the
Right.
La Crosse Promise, which is a whole separate thing. It's confusing to me, this is a presentation on Fund 80. I understand Fund 80 is done in a larger context, but I've been here a long time and I'm still confused, so I'm assuming other people around the table are probably struggling with sorting out with what's a grant, with what's Fund 80, what are we
Sure.
asking for?
I would say most of these programs are 100-ish% funded through Fund 80. We're talking about some grants and other things that facilitate our work over time. The CLC grant that we had applied for and received and maintained funding, that goes above and beyond what's included in here. It is hard to disentangle all the things, and especially when we had ESSER funding as well, that started some stuff that we continued here in Fund 80.
Well, like on the slide about foster school and community justice, Fund 80 funds the SROs. The other pieces are funded elsewhere, is that correct?
It funds those as well. So the Justice Circles, the Restorative Justice Program is listed in there under our budget.
Okay.
That's something that we do fund. And System of Care is something we funded as well over the years. So they should all be in there. It is confusing as we talk about all the different ways we're supporting stuff, and it bleeds back and forth in some cases, but by and large, this presentation is the Fund 80 work.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Can I piggyback on your question? So looking at like where does that fall in the, I know we're not on the levy slide yet, but the YWCA, the Justice Circles, the system of care, is that included in the SRO levy, or is it, what other line item are we represented, is represented here, or are they Fund 80 funds coming from somewhere?
The next item on our agenda, on the board agenda, has the kind of itemized Fund 80 budget and levy proposal. And that kind of indicates we have things bucketed. So as an example for what you just mentioned there, community partnership programs includes the Crosse Promise at the north side and south side, restorative justice, YWCA partnership, system of care partnership, which we just talked about, La Crosse County Transportation for system of care, Be Great Graduate Specialist, community impact coordinator, and then professional development supplies. And so we have kind of some legacy buckets that we've tried to fit things under and keep consistent to the best of our ability over time. School resource officers has always been its own line item, so that gets split out. Kurt tried to organize these in terms of, we try and organize them and how we think about things so that it feels cohesive, but it doesn't necessarily relate exactly to how the budget gets developed, which is its own thing.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense where they fall in community partnership programs.
Yep. Yeah, and so you moved on to the levy history. You know, this is what we've actually levied, not what the program budget was. You know, and so if we levy money in Fund 80, but we don't spend all of it, it has to be used for Fund 80 only, and so those dollars stay there until we use them. A good example for this last year is it took us a little while to hire early childhood development coordinator, and so last year we had levied $110,000. This year we're recommending just 20 because we didn't spend some of those funds, and so they have to be used in that program for the next year. And so we're able to carry that over and use that within Fund 80 to offset the cost of the budget. There are a couple of increases we're interested in having a conversation around. With strategy 1, with the coordination there, just maintaining the programming, our actual budget levy would be less, but we would maintain that program as it is to see it come to fruition. And we've talked about these strategies over the last 6 months in a couple different instances. Empowering youth beyond the school day. We're interested in moving middle school extracurricular costs to Fund 80. It's allowable under the law, and it would free up some space in Fund 10 to be able to accomplish some important things, especially as it relates to extracurriculars, paying our coaches a little bit more. We've noticed that we are under the market rate in our area by probably 25%, and it's become apparent to our coaches and our ability to recruit and retain great staff there. And so that is something that we would like to address. And then, you know, middle athletic budgets. You know, we give our softball team $200. A bat costs $600. A bucket of balls costs $300. We can barely do anything to move the needle for basic extracurriculars or co-curricular programs. And so there's an opportunity if we make this move to better take care of those programs beyond the school day within our control, not just those in middle school. And then the other one is expanding to partner fully with Grow Lacrosse, our garden programming. Right now, each school fundraises to the best of their ability to make these programs happen at the elementary level, but not every school has this program either. And so our goal is to create equal access to Grow Lacrosse garden programming across the school district without the burden being placed on families and PTOs to make it happen. It has been integrated into our curriculum now for a dozen years and has become a standard part of how we operate. And so we see it as a kind of a selling point for the school district of La Crosse and an asset and an opportunity that we would like to fully become partners on so that it's not left up to chance and, you know, random grants, but instead fully funded. Well, this wouldn't fully fund it, but it would create stability from the school's perspective in ensuring that this programming was available at every school. And then for the strategy 4, every year we calculate the actual costs for our school resource officers. Naturally, if there's some increases in their costs, we want to be a good partner in that endeavor, and so we'd be looking at it's essentially inflationary increases based on the school resource officers they have. Some years it could actually go down. If they hire folks that have a little less experience, we might actually pay less. But sometimes, I guess what we've found is that our school resource officer program is desirable, and we're usually getting experienced police officers who are really excited to work with youth in a more intense way. And so we're getting trained, experienced officers who already have experiences elsewhere coming into this program, which is exactly what we want. And so sometimes when they hire new folks, we see a slight bump in costs. So that's what we're interested in having a conversation about. And of course, I had provided a list of 10 things from $15 million to $7,000 that we could talk about as well. I guess any questions about programming and stuff for Kurt while he's here before we get into budgets and programs expansion?
Could we look at the, I mean, it's hard, in my opinion, to separate, I mean, we're asked to fund the monies to do the program, so could we do the budget piece of it and then do the whole thing together? I think that makes a better conversation.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want this left up?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So move on to the next item then. Got my script lost here, sorry. Hang on. 702, review of the proposed community service fund levy. And then we can discuss 701 and 702 together since they're related.
I can describe it real quickly. So you'll see there's 2 columns there, and it kind of lists by item each of the programs. I had to increase my Zoom a couple of times to read it well. On the left hand, in the Fund 80 budget, that's our budget. That's not the levy. It's what we'll be looking at funding that program at. Like I said, there might be leftover funds from the prior year that offset the levy for the next year. And so it continues our Boys and Girls Club programming and our after-school community programs, which our schools use to fund additional programming. The building community use, this is allows our buildings to be accessible to the community. So youth sports and YMCA programming and others, we're able to charge those costs of operating the facility at that time to Fund 80, so it doesn't come out of our Fund 10 budget, and it creates an opportunity there. The next is our community liaisons. In green, we've indicated a proposed program operation increase. We've noticed that while we've been able to hire great people, they don't have funds to work with to operate their programs. We've had to kind of beg, borrow, and steal that from other places. If we're able to incorporate that into Fund 80, that would allow them to continue their great work without that challenge that we've had historically. Our community partnership programs include Lacrosse Promise, YWCA Restorative Justice, System of Care, Be Great Graduate, our community impact coordinator staff in Shoe Homes and Huber Court. And then, once again, a program operation costs that we're asking the board to consider. The community school coordinators, this provides the staff for Northside Elementary and Hamilton Elementary for our community schools programs. Program operation costs there as well. Early childhood community partnerships. So this is the program we started last year, and we'll have an update on this upcoming board meeting. The Logan Pool is in there. It helps offset costs for recreational programming there. And then our school resource officers are indicated there as well. The total programming is about $2.1 million if you include those additions above in green. The levy would be $1.9 million. It's a little bit less than last year because of kind of leftover funds, right? Or no?
Actually, That's an increase.
Increase.
The dollar amount is
Okay.
an increase to levy.
Got it, so a slight increase. And then we're proposing the middle school community co-curriculars and grow lacrosse in those proposals down below, and it shows what the impact on the total budget would be and the levy there.
What does 5 cents on the levy mean?
5 cents on the levy.
About $5 for a $100,000 valued home.
Thank you.
So it's $5 for every 100,000?
Correct.
That's easier then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Bagneski?
Well, with those numbers going up to the Boys and Girls Club Southside programming in Hamilton, it says 100,000. That's what we pay. What do Boys and Girls Club portion of that? Do they contribute a certain amount? How much or?
Oh yeah, they have a $5 million budget for
But that's
running
for
their
all their
programs.
clubs in lacrosse. So
Yes.
do we know what they spend just at Hamilton in comparison?
Could certainly get that. I mean, I don't know, Kurt, if you have any context.
I actually asked for that last year, remember? We talked about that and I never received any information. That was one of the things I was gonna bring up, but it would be nice, I think the public should know too, and it'd be nice for us to know exactly what it costs us, real money wise.
Yeah, I don't have the full operational costs for all of the out-of-school time program. The only comparison that I had at one point was the ESSER dollars. When we had those, we were paying actual costs of programming, and I think our lacrosse sites, and we help fund not just Boys and Girls Club, but we were funding YMCA and Good Fight Club at that time. I think we were in the $500,000 range. I'd have to look back, but that'd be, we could get that. I know that our contribution is just a percentage of what the total actual cost
Can
of
we get a
service.
report on what that
Sure.
costs and what they provide and what we provide for next meeting?
For some just kind of relative context, I mean, our contribution is, $400,000. You know, for the 1,200 students that are served, that's about $33 per student, which helps offset their membership costs. If they attended all 259 days that they're open and available, we're talking about 13 cents a day, you know, for a kid to attend the BGC year-round. You know, so it's a huge asset to families, and it makes it free and accessible to all that programming. I certainly get your interest in being fiduciarily responsible. I also see it as an incredible value personally.
It may be incredible value, and I agree, it is an incredible value, and it's something that's desperately needed, but I think it would just be nice to know the real cost, you know, the devil's in the detail, and
Sure.
it would be, I mean, it's just not the cost of that. Every time somebody uses our facilities, it costs us money as the school. So, and they're gonna say, well, no matter what, a janitor or somebody's there, well, no, people come in just for it too. So I asked for that and I never received it. I was biting my tongue, but as long as somebody brought it up, I'm thankful, so thank you.
Mr. Bagneski?
Well, and then, I don't know, it says 3 community school coordinator staff. It says 318,000. I personally would like, again, a breakdown of what that's paying for. That's
That's
a
their
coordinator and an assistant.
That's their salary and their benefits. They're employees of the school district of La Crosse.
That was Tony Yang's presentation, right?
Yep.
That he gave that day?
He's a cultural liaison.
Yeah, that's a different.
So this would be, so Alicia Place is the supervisor for our community schools efforts, and then there's a coordinator in each of our elementary schools at Northside and Hamilton, and so that 318 represents the salary and benefits for the 3 people involved.
Other comments or questions? I have some too, but I don't want to. Oh, yes, Dr. Sprague.
So, thinking about the early childhood community partnership and the coordinator position. So we're slightly less than a year into Ms. Sampson's tenure, I imagine, since she was on board and everything. So knowing that we're in this needs assessment and root cause analysis phase, what, and I'm kind of asking you to predict the future a little bit, like, what might we expect, like when we find what the root causes are, are you thinking this is going to be a reallocation of existing resources to maximize impact that may or may not be Fund 80 projects? Are we maybe looking ahead to additional Fund 80 dollars?
So what we've found in our community impact work, and this is true at our community schools at Northside and Hamilton, and the same for Huber, Mullen, and Shoe Home, or Huber and Shoe Mullen, is that we're particularly talented as a school district, as a hub for all these different organizations that interact in these areas. And we see their kids on a regular basis. So we have like a disproportionate regular access to these families and the students. And what that has positioned us to do well is reach out to them, communicate, and connect all these organizations to each other. And so as an example, in our Shoe Mullen work, we identified that underemployment was an issue, or I should say, the residents identified underemployment as an issue. And so we identified a pathway through Western Technical College to help gain TA certification for folks living in the Shoe Mullen neighborhood. We ultimately were able to employ a number of those folks, and some were employed in other places, but we didn't pay any extra. We had no additional expense. We just connected residents who identified a need to a resource using our person. So we were a connector between organizations and the folks involved. We imagined something similar for the early childhood program. Our goal is not to layer on costs by providing smoking cessation and responsible technology use and prenatal care. Our goal is to identify what is it that parents, young parents need, and then connect them through our partnerships and our unique ability, being this community hub, to the resources that are available. So by partnering with Mayo and Amplify, by partnering with the Parenting Place and child care centers, because we already have strong pre-established connections, once we've done a needs and assets assessment and find out what parents say they need, we can start connecting them to those resources or build new things with our partners. But our goal isn't to be the provider of those things, just a connector.
I had a non-budgetary question, but if you're going to go
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thinking about the Sail to Success program, and Kurt, this is maybe something you can speak, going back to the other presentation. I'm just really curious, what does a 72% growth in SEL skills look like? Is that, and how are we assessing that? That's an interesting statistic to me. It sounds fantastic, but we're talking about social emotional learning skills, so on the ground.
Yeah, so Hamilton has been piloting, and I think we're looking to scale the SEL screener. So I think we presented here before around mental health screening that kids can elect to get into. Very difficult to do at the elementary level, but Hamilton ended up developing a screener to assess students' SEL development, where teachers who know the student the best can help evaluate on these metrics, and so that's what that is based on. Definitely, yeah, difficult to do that. Do they have it or don't they have it? But yeah.
So probably I'm thinking about, like, what are the indicators on that? Is it like attentiveness in class?
Be like, can I regulate my emotions?
Right.
Can I plan for a task and complete it?
Mm-hmm.
Was I a good friend today?
Yeah.
Those sorts of
That's
things.
what I was wondering. Thank you. Yeah.
We're gonna go past 8. I don't know
Pardon?
if we're gonna go past 8 on this one.
9 is our.
I know, but I thought if
Oh.
we were having our other one,
Good point.
Well, I'm still going to ask my questions.
Yeah, no, you're boss, I'm just saying.
So, because this is a levy, all of these things are good things, but they come down to levy. There aren't state dollars for these, this is levy. So do we have a ballpark on how our revenue increase went up to $325 per student? The state didn't fund any of that. So how much are we going to be looking for a levy increase in a ballpark? I know there's a lot of other factors around it, but it's hard for me to figure out how answer about this levy when I don't know that big levy.
Okay, so one big component that we know is that our equalized value for the district is going up almost 6%. So what does that mean? That means any increase to the levy, be it from within the revenue limit, the community service fund, or our debt payment, is spread among more value. That reduces that amount. So as I was looking at it recently, I anticipate there's going to be a 40 cents increase in our levy just from our debt, the new referendum debt. Okay?
It's 40 cents per.
Right. But when I look at the whole total picture, I'm only anticipating a 31-cent increase in our mill rate.
Including the 40 cents?
Because, yes, because I anticipate that our general fund levy is not increasing enough where the value of the property increase won't support it.
And part of
So-
the challenge is the $325 increase on the per pupil revenue limit is offset by our declining enrollment. So while we have an increase for each student, we have fewer students, and that's a much more dramatic decline than the 325 ends up being on the positive side.
But there's one issue was obviously, we all just received a letter recently on how our property values skyrocketed.
Honest to goodness.
Yeah, so, how does that affect everything? I guess that's what I wanna be careful of, because
Totally.
I don't want people jumping off the roof thinking we're gonna,
And
This is part of the 6% that you mentioned?
yeah, that's,
It brings our mill rate
Right.
down.
yeah, so it'll
Right.
up it up.
Well, but it brings the mill rate down, but if you had a
But the
200,
dollar number,
if you had a $200,000 house, it's probably 250. So now you're still paying an extra $20 or $30 or whatever.
And that
So-
would only be the case if only your house increased in property value, right? So the total dollar amount you're gonna pay, it might end up being a wash, because the mill rate would be flat to a minor increase, but because everybody's house went up, everybody's paying a little bit more, which means everybody pays, they don't pay more. Everybody pays the equal amount across it all. If just your house went up in value, you would see a pretty big increase. But when everybody's house goes up in value, all of that increased cost gets washed over the whole school district, which is nice. And so I know people are nervous about the increase in property valuation. If it was just one neighborhood or one township, that would be super concerning. But because it's across the city, it's going to be a relatively minimal impact to anyone personally. Now, that said, an increase in mill rates will lead to an increase in taxation, and so even at 31 cents, that
But
will be
even if the
new
mill rate remains
taxes.
flat and your assessment goes up 20%, you're paying more.
Not necessarily.
It could actually go down, it depends where the watermark is in the lower end typically.
But the mill rate is a percentage of the 100, or is a per 100,000, correct?
Yes, you're right, Ms. Sukla. If the mill rate stayed the same and property values went up, you would pay more. Because there's limits on revenue that the city and the county and the school district can raise, when property values go up across the board, mill rates simply go down. And so that is almost inevitably the case. Ours will go up primarily because of the referendum that was passed, but we're anticipating it won't even be as much as we said it would be because of all these other factors.
Can I make a different kind of sense of that, just to check myself here? So, yes, our referendum mill rate is being positively impacted by all these changes, but that is also reflected in declining enrollment and the per pupil increase, which are also disconnected from, they don't match one another the way we might like them to see. So, although that mill rate looks better, we are ultimately, as a district, still left with less overall budget than we would need.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work out in our favor.
Okay.
Declining enrollment is a huge depressing factor on our revenue.
So what is the timeline on when this has to be approved? I'm concerned because we haven't heard a report on childcare, but I'm pretty sure somebody's gonna stand at that podium and tell me that this has to be approved at the next meeting, because if we don't, people won't know what to do come the beginning of the school year, and our back is against the wall, and we gotta make a decision, even though we are just getting the information. And that's a struggle for me when I keep being told I have to hurry up and make a decision, because inevitably, I always regret that decision.
Well, with Fund 80, we'd like you to tentatively approve so that we can figure out the mill rate. But it's just another part of that total levy. Remember, all those pieces, we don't know until October 15th.
So if
After
we get-
October 15th, you need to know, you need to settle, and if there's an adjustment that needs to be made, the portion that you can fluctuate with is Fund 80.
So, if we had questions at the next meeting, could we approve Fund 80 at the first meeting in September, or will that create some terrible thing? I just want to understand what wiggle room we do or do not. We might not need that, but I just want to understand that.
You could, and because anything I give you as of like September 8th is always going to be tentative. All those numbers are going to be tentative estimates, and until you set the levy, do you need to know that you are approving any one of those levies? Because you approve those levies separately for Fund 80 and for your debt.
Thank you. My last point I want to bring up is, in the last 2 years, we've increased this fund by almost $1 million based on the proposal that we have here in front of us. That's the Fund 80 budget for 2021, and again, it was a little bit reduced because of COVID, was just a little under $1 million. So we are doubling it in 4 years, and I want to make sure we give serious thought to this. These are all wonderful things. It would be lovely if we could do more to help families and do well. I totally agree that education is more than read and write and arithmetic, as we used to say in the olden days. We have to do more to support the students that are struggling. The question that I'm struggling with in my mind that I don't have an answer, and I think we all need to struggle with is work through this, is what can we afford to do? And that's, I think, the question that's on the table. Other questions or comments? Yes?
I would just add to that, this represents like less than 2% of our budget. So, I don't know, when we're thinking about what we can afford to do. And I know as a classroom teacher, like having students who have predictable after-school places to go, predictable early childhood care, that does have an impact on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those things only happen when those other sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs things are cared for. So I don't think it's reckless or irresponsible to think that 2% of our budget could be used to build that foundation.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying it's reckless or irresponsible. Right. It's something we all have to consider.
Well, we are looking at moving some things to this, so really going from one budget to another. In some aspects, correct, where, where it's a benefit to our other budget to move it to here, so. Yeah, I totally get it though, but thank you.
I have a question on one of those moves. So the $300,000 increase of the move, it's a shift from 10 to 80. Is that a flat shift, or are we already at a $300,000 expenditure right now, or is this a proposed increase to that budget to allow more resources or access to co-curriculars, or?
I think when Patty gave me the estimate on the numbers, it was closer to $350,000 expense. I was choosing a number I thought we could conservatively meet on an annual basis, in terms of the cost for those programs for middle school. And then that would free up those funds in our Fund 10 budget, to reinvest in similar sorts of programming.
And the only way you really can do this is to open up all of those co-curricular programs at the middle school level to everyone in the community. So those would not just be our middle school students, those would be from the private schools and homeschooled students.
We already see homeschool students enrolled in those programs, so that's no real change. And as far as middle schools go, we might see a kid or two from the privates, but.
So what would the scope of this be? Is this clubs activity? Like, give me some examples of what.
7th and 8th grade volleyball, 7th and 8th grade basketball,
Okay, so it'd
football
be
programming,
sports,
and then also some after-school clubs, some of the, very few, because they're already paid for through community service funds, so they already are open to anyone who wanted to participate. There's like knitting club and video game club and some of those sorts of things where the more the merrier.
Go ahead.
I'm just really curious. You mentioned that was permissible under the law, and I take it on faith that you've asked the lawyers about that.
Yes.
But I'm just really curious because the statute does like specifically say not extracurricular. So like volleyball as a very prototypical extracurricular activity, like how is it permissible?
Specifically talking about WIAA athletics at the high school level.
Oh,
That's the more narrow definition that they've refined over the years. And so we say broadly extracurricular. When you look at across the state what has been moved into Fund 80 and has been consistently approved by the DPI, middle school sports is one of those.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
All activities at the middle school? It's co-curricular of any kind, music, band?
Music and band would continue to be a part of our curricular programs, and the after-school programming that they do for ensembles and other things would continue to be a part of our curricular budget.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Other comments, questions? So at the next meeting, we'll hear a report on the child care and hopefully get some more information on the Boys and Girls Club
Yes,
program.
absolutely.
And if the board's ready, we will make a vote. If not, we can push that back on the meeting.
So that will appear as an action item on the next agenda?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We could choose not to act, but that, it'll appear as that. There you go, that's the way. Thank you. Okay, so, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on. 703, Wisconsin Association of School Boards Resolution Proposals. Board members should submit any proposals to the board secretary by the 4th of September, so we can review them at the September 8th meeting, and we can get things into WASB on time. If you want to know what resolutions are currently out there, they're out on the WASB website, so you can see those. And so you can look at that. Mr. Manka being our WASB delegate, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to this? Just putting you on the
Not
spot.
yet. This is something I still need to do research on myself. I'm going to be taking the initiative on that before September.
So usually the resolutions are things about advocacy in terms of changing the law, changing administrative rules, et cetera. Any questions on that? Okay. We'll move to the proposed Wisconsin Association of School Boards WASB 2026 Business Honor Roll submissions. And we did have this at a previous meeting. We said if any board members had any suggestions, then I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Engel.
Yep, our school board made a number of recommendations, and we filled those out. We are allowed up to 5 with some administrative recommendations. There's 5 groups listed there: Maury's Auto Group, Amplify Health, Quick Trip Corporate, Ron Hamas Refrigeration, and the Rivoli Theater and Pizzeria. Thank you. All have been excellent partners with the school district, and we would love to recognize them through the WASB Business Honor Roll.
I had mentioned Dow Ford.
My apologies for missing that one. I will, we can refine our list for sure.
Okay, so that's under information. Anything else anybody wants to add? Appreciate your diligence as administrative staff to keep moving this forward. I think it's good that we recognize these individuals, so. Okay. With that said, we'll move on to announcements, starting with Dr. Garcia for the La Crosse Public Education Foundation.
Yeah, LPEF doesn't meet in July, and we haven't had our August meeting yet, so we're still on the Bow Tie Classic. Keep it on your calendar, September 6th. And I think I'll have raffle tickets sometime mid to late August. And they've, Smith's Bike Shop has donated an e-bike to the raffle again, so it should be
Nice. Very nice. A new announcement that we have Tim Alberts and Scott Neumeister are working with a partnership with the city and the school district, and so we're just going to add them to announcements if there's anything to talk about there.
Yeah, I'll let Scott jump in if he has anything, but it's been about a month and a half we started conversations. We've had 3 meetings, and basically what it extensive, Scott, being a prior council member, myself being on the Parks Board, we've met with a few of their employees at the Park and Recs, along with a council member, and just trying to come up with some things that we can collaborate on in terms of their resources, our resources, things that we might need in the future. And the first thing that kind of came up was our Logan Pool obviously is in dire need of some help in renovations, and theirs being the north side pool also. So there were just some discussions on how we could collaborate maybe in the future with maybe building a new pool. One of the ideas was an indoor pool to kind of compensate for the Logan pool, and moving it there as an indoor pool. Being on the Parks Board, the argument's always been we've had too many pools, outdoor pools, and they're always in need of some help. And that north side pool it might get through the next year, so that's why they came up with that. And then obviously with our Logan pool in the future needing to be looked at. So that was the first one on the agenda in terms of what we came up with as a collaboration possibly in the future. So I don't know if Scott's got anything to add to that.
I think I'm excited over the collaboration to us working together with the city. I think it's building a stronger relationship, and we talk about a lot of things obviously, and that to be able to be in that position to bounce ideas off each other, I just think it makes us stronger as a city, definitely, and I think it's going to be a great outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that was missed when I first got on this board. I was like, why don't we talk with the city? I mean, there's a lot of resources that we share. Not a ton, but some, especially in the future here with some of these properties that we're going to have to deal with. So yeah, it made a lot of sense to speak with these people and figure out all of our needs, because sometimes you just don't know until you ask. So. Plus the shared cost. Let's just talk about that. It's always great when you share costs instead of all the costs.
Bear the cost.
Yeah, bear the cost.
Okay, anything else on that? Any questions, anybody? We look forward to hearing more from you on that. Announcements from the board president. I do want to recognize that our September meetings are the second and fourth Mondays in September, not the first and third. Please mark it on your calendars. We always want to make sure we have a quorum. The other thing that I wanted to mention on calendars is that in October it's the first and third, but it's also the fourth Monday. We have a meeting because that's when we have to officially approve the budget. It's typically a short meeting, although we might have a workshop or something.
What month is that?
October. So there's 3 meetings in October, first, third, and fourth Mondays. Make sure you have those on your calendars. And WASB, the thing was sent around regarding the fall conference that they have on Thursday, October 4th in Alaska, so you don't have to travel anywhere too far. At 4:30 is a workshop, at 6 o'clock is a meeting, so give serious consideration to signing up for that. Those who have attended in the past, if you have anything you want to add, but want to make board members aware of that. Turn it over to you, Dr. Engel.
School's coming fast and furious. Summer's almost over for us. August 12th, we have new staff onboarding at Logan High, so we're excited to welcome all of our new staff. If anyone wanted to drop by for coffee and donuts at 7:45 a.m., we'll be mingling with new staff for about an hour. On August 18th, we have our all-staff welcome for everybody in the school district at 9:30 a.m. We'll be at Logan High School. If anyone wants to show up to that and be a part of that welcome back for our students, that would be a great opportunity as well. It'll be a very exciting day. I think we're going to have mascot races, so very excited about that. And then August 21st is the first day of school. It's an awesome day, so exciting to have kids back and us back at our work. As a reminder, we've shifted our school days this next year. We have 2-tier busing that allowed us to save 5 bus routes, which is huge, but we're also to create those developmentally appropriate start times. So 7:45 a.m. start time for elementary schools and 8:25 for middle and high schools. Excited about that. And then I did send an email, board update this last week, and it just talks about 4K and childcare settings. Don't need to discuss that further here, but I just encourage you to read that. We may be moving fast and making some decisions around that, potentially offering full day or all day 4K in order to kind of mitigate some issues that we see coming very quickly. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and if you have any questions, we can chat later.
Thank you. So move on to agenda planning. The proposed agenda for the August 18th meeting is there. I would like to add an item under information. I'd like to add a discussion about page 11 bylaws, board compensation. There's a small nuance in implementation of that, and I just want to make sure that we as a board just want to discuss it and give some direction to the staff. So we look for a motion to approve that agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 18th, 2025 board agenda with the addition of the information item and as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. You got it. You take it.
Ms. Fuchs gets that one.
Could have a third.
Any further discussion on the agenda, proposed agenda for next meeting? We'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Vigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manko?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Hi. Stop falling off my chair. Board debriefing, Dr. Sprague, please.
Good to be back, y'all. I missed you. I had to get plugged back into school board mode, so this was awesome. Good meeting overall, I think, in terms of facilitating questions. I appreciate the questions that are coming out, even on the information items, as we're thinking, trying to be forward-thinking and informing our decision-making and anticipating what's coming down the line. So it sounds like everybody's bringing up their questions and feeling good about the conversation at the table. So am I. Happy to be back on that. So 10 out of 10, no notes.
Can anybody beat that? I don't know. Okay. So we will look to adjournment. We do have La Crosse Board of Education will consider a motion to move into closed session on Monday, August 4th, 2025, immediately following the Board of Education in room 209 pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 paren 1 paren C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee of which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, to wit, administrator compensation. Is there a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Second. Second by Mr. Bagneski. A roll call will be taken.
Mr. Alberts?
Aye.
Mr. Vigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manko?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Dr. Sprague?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye. Okay. This meeting is adjourned.